over into the items. We have guests here for the affordability unlocked item, so we'll take that first, and then we'll go back into order, taking up the emergency housing, local disaster item second, and then the mapping tool showing our affordable housing and planned public transportation. We'll take that third. So, staff, let's get started with the affordability unlocked presentation.
Councilmember, this is Mandy DeMayo, Neighborhood Housing and Community Development. We have Alex Bradkey here, and she'll be delivering the presentation on affordability unlocked.
Great, and as she comes on, sorry, my screen failed to scroll for me. I missed. We obviously have Vice Chair Ellis here, and then I also see Councilmember Renteria and the Mayor are logged in and listening. So back to you guys.
Great. Good morning, council members. This is Alex. Can you hear me?
We can. Welcome, Alex.
Thank you. Hopefully you received some slides that I sent in. That's going to be my sort of presentation documents that I'll be going off of today. So like I said, my name is Alex Reck, planner with Neighborhood Housing and Community Development. Thanks for having me here today. I'm going to give you guys an update on the Affordability Unlocked program, just talking a little bit about the program in general, what that process looks like to go through, and then our current project pipeline. It's also my understanding that we have a couple of speakers that are available who have participated in the program who will be able to speak to that experience. Thank you. Slide 2, please. So I'm sure most of you are pretty familiar with Affordability Unlocked, but just as a reminder, this is a development bonus program that offers substantial waivers of development regulations in exchange for high percentages of affordable units. It was meant to enable housing providers to build more units in their developments than otherwise entitled to, and to better leverage public funds, in particular in light of the 2018 affordable housing bond dollars. In addition, it was meant to be easily paired with a number of other affordable housing tools, whether that be gap financing or some of our other density bonus programs. Just as a reminder, the Affordability Unlocked ordinance was passed on May 9th last year unanimously by City Council. In November last year, we had our affordability application portal and supporting program documents up online for the public. I want to take one moment to just talk a little bit about our Affordability Unlocked agreement template. This is a sort of new type of document than what we've done before for some of our other density bonus programs. We worked a lot with legal counsel to craft a document that creates some strong protections for those affordable units that are coming out of this program. And most importantly, is a document that is recorded on the property itself, so that in the event of change in ownership, those affordable units are still secure. Slide 3, please. Here we have an overview of some of the program requirements. I have this on here just so when we later talk about type 1 and type 2 projects, you guys kind of have a feeling for what that means. So an applicant gets to choose whether they want to be type 1 or type 2. For a type 1 project, the requirements are going to differ a little bit depending on the size of the project and then whether it's a rental or ownership project. Just as a quick summary, if it's a 1 to 2 unit project, then 100% of the units will need to be affordable. 3 or more units, then 50% of the units must be affordable. For a rental project, the average affordable unit must serve households at 60% median family income or below for 40 years. And then 20% of all units must serve households at 50% median family income or below. If it's ownership project, then the affordable units should serve on average 80% median family income or below for a period of 99 years. In addition to those requirements, the project must have 25% of its affordable units following one of the three options. 2 or more bedrooms, serve as senior housing, or serve as supportive housing. And then if it is a rental project, the applicant must agree to include a number of different tenant protections, such as just cause eviction, tenant right to organize, source of income protection. And the way we do this is we use our rental housing development assistance lease addendum which includes all of these items and include it in the agreement as an exhibit. When you're thinking about type 2 simply builds on and requires greater commitment than type 1. So a type 2 project is going to meet all of those type 1 requirements, and then in addition is going to meet at least one of the following 4 options. So that's going to be at least 75% of all the units are affordable, at least 10% of the affordable units are deeply affordable at 30% median family income or below, at least 50% of the affordable units have 2 or more bedrooms, or the project is within a quarter mile of an Imagine Austin corridor with transit. Now, I don't have a slide today on the bonuses that are associated with this. There are a number of different development modifications that an applicant receives in exchange for these affordability dedications. But I do want to highlight, just because just to make it a little bit more clear about why you would do type 1 or type 2, that the difference in the bonus that you would receive is in 2 different areas. The first one being height. If you're a type 1 project, then you're able to increase your height by a factor of 1.25 above your base zoning district height limit. And if you're a type 2 project, that factor is going to be 1.5. The other difference, if you're a type 1 or type 2, as far as the actual bonus, is going to be if your base district limits the number of dwelling units, and this is typically going to be something we see with a single family district, then as a type 1 project, that limit is modified up to 6 units per site, as a type 2 up to 8 units. So that's kind of the overall very quick type 1, type 2, what you're looking at, what you're thinking about. Slide 4, please. Here we have a quick run through on what it looks like to go through the process for getting certified and developing an affordability unlocked project. First, you'll submit an application via the online portal. We require a couple different documents as backup, including a proof of site control document. So an applicant does need to show that they either own the property or have an option on the property in order to apply. If the project meets requirements, at that point, we're going to use that agreement template, create a draft outlining exactly how this project is going to meet the affordability unlocked requirements. That'll then be executed by the applicant in NHCD, and a certification letter is issued. This letter is going to accompany all development applications moving forward so that reviewers can apply the appropriate development bonuses. We've worked really closely with DSD on this process. It is somewhat similar with the letter format to our smart housing process. And so it's not completely new. We haven't had any issues so far with this. It goes through that regular development process. At the point that the building permit is issued, NHCD places an administrative hold on that permit so that the certificate of occupancy cannot be released. In order to lift that hold, we do require an architect or engineer stamped letter essentially certifying that the project was built as outlined in the agreement, number of units, number of dedicated affordable units, and so forth. And then that affordability unlocked agreement is recorded at that point in time. We would then release the administrative hold, their certificate of occupancy can be issued, and at that point, the project's going to enter that compliance and monitoring stage. Slide 5, please. So here we have a look at our project pipeline. I'm actually going to start sort of on the bottom half of the slide. Since September 3rd, we have received 46 applications, 26 of which have been certified. 5 have been canceled or we have not received a response after the initial application. Of the certified projects, 10 were certified as type 1, 16 were certified as type 2. As far as tenure breakdown, 31% of certified projects have been an ownership product, and 69% have been a rental product. Overall, we've certified 2,721 units, of which 2,337 are affordable and 384 are market rate. We, of course, are tracking projects as they move through the development process, as we do with all of our projects that are certified under density bonus programs. As of our last report update, we had 3 projects that had received a building permit or had a building permit under review. These include 12,500 Lamppost Lane, a Civilitude project, 1103 Claremont Avenue, a Guadalupe Neighborhood Development Corporation project, 300 East Crosland Street, a Jesse real estate project. And then we have 3 projects that have a site plan under review: the Matador and the Henderson, both with LDG Development, and Agave East Apartments with Herman and Kittle Properties. Slide 6, please. So here we have a breakdown of sort of the geographic distribution that we've seen for certified projects so far. As you'll note, District 3 so far has the most certified projects with 6, but closely behind that, District 1 and 4 each have 5 certified projects. So far, we have not certified any projects in District 6 or in 8. I've also pulled out over to the side just a couple of interesting statistics that I wanted to share with you today, including that 70% of certified project applications indicated participation in the low-income housing tax credit program or the rental housing development assistance or ownership housing development assistance programs for funding. And this, I think, just speaks to the fact that, again, this program really was designed to be used in combination with a number of other affordable housing tools. This is further solidified by the fact that 65% of certified projects have also chosen to be SMART certified, which allows them to access a number of development fee waivers. And then finally, I'm happy to report that the Aon Lamppost became the first certified project to break ground on July 22nd, just a couple of months ago. Slide 7, please. That's all I have for you today. Pretty brief, I know, but any questions?
Thank you, Alex. I'm going to save questions for you and the staff, probably for after we also get presentations from some of the folks that are building the affordable housing, if that's okay with everybody here on the dais. Staff, do we have everybody in our guests here in queue to give us the specific examples? It looks like they're coming on, so I'm guessing the answer is yes. So we will take up some testimony from Project Transitions, from Guadalupe Neighborhood Development Corporation, and I think we will also likely get Foundation Communities and Civilitude on. Before you all get started, though, we just got a lot of really good and dense information from our city staff and our team. Alex, thank you for putting all of those numbers together. But basically, in less than a year, this was supposed to be the year check-in for Affordability Unlocked, but technically it only kicked off in November, so maybe it's 10 months in. We have somewhere around 2,500 homes coming through the program, 2,000 of which are low cost. And that might be apartments that are really, really low in rent, $500, $700, $800 rents. It includes home ownership projects that, where you could get new homes getting built at less than $200,000. And at a scale of over 2,000 homes applying through this in less than a year is really impressive. But just seeing that on a spreadsheet means one thing. Actually hearing from the nonprofits and the builders on the ground doing this work is another. And so I'm really glad that we have y'all here to come tell us about your work so that we can better understand how the program is working on the individual scale, and then council members can ask our guests questions or the staff questions. So Ms. Herrera, why don't you get us started and remind us all about the great work that you do and how you've been using Affordability Unlocked.
Absolutely. Thank you, Greg, and thank you all for having us here today. My name is Cynthia Herrera, Executive Director of Project Transition, and I'm here today just to share how Affordability Unlocked is making it possible for us at Project Transitions to more than triple the affordable housing stock available to and reserved for people living with HIV/AIDS right here in Austin. So first, at Roosevelt Gardens, the site Project Transitions has owned for over 25 years, since the 90s. We are nearly doubling our capacity there from 22 to 40 deeply supportive apartment homes. All 40 units will be affordable, with 21 units at 30% MFI, 19 units at 50% MFI. Plus, we're going to have 5,468 square feet of community space, including a commercial kitchen and a dining hall with a large food pantry, community rooms and classroom. And the community will be centered around a green open air courtyard for the residents to enjoy. You know, this is really incredible. It's something that really would not have been possible without Affordability Unlocked. In fact, our team determined early on that without it, we really wouldn't have been permitted to build even the 22 units that already exist there at Roosevelt Gardens. And as we speak, Roosevelt Gardens is underway. So earlier this year, we paused to consider the impact that COVID might have on our development plans. But with the coordinated effort of our team, we are pushing through because we know how vital this housing is for our community, both for individual quality of life and health and for the public health at large. And this expansion, again, would literally not have been possible without Affordability Unlocked. So thank you for that. And the development we have is going to be right on Burnett, 8007 Burnett Road. It is slated to break ground in spring of 2021, and it will create 61 brand new, deeply supportive, and all affordable apartment homes in Northwest Austin, right there on Burnett Road. This will actually have somewhere near 11,000 square feet of community space. It will be a real hub for community building where residents can receive telehealth services right on site and also be part of our community garden project we'll have there. So again, another desperately needed, innovative development that would not be possible without Affordability Unlocked. And the city has been incredible with y'all's leadership, stepping up and supporting the development of these affordable housing units. Funding still seems to be the primary barrier to maximizing potential of Affordability Unlocked. So I'll say that we originally planned to build 84 units at that site. We've had to scale that back to the 61 units, but still so incredible to be able to offer these 61 units specifically for this special population. We know that thousands of folks right here in Austin are living with HIV and struggling with homelessness or housing instability. We fear COVID is only going to increase those numbers, so we can't tell you how much we appreciate the support specifically for these projects. Now, we know that housing is healthcare because we see it every day. And with these expansions made possible by Affordability Unlocked, we know that we will transform thousands of lives and bring our community that much closer to an AIDS-free Austin. So for that and everything y'all have done to support building affordable housing in Austin, we thank you.
Thank you for that, Ms. Herrera. And are you able to stick around in case folks have questions?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay, great. We'll get presentations from the other three groups really quick and get back to you. But thanks for that work. And that sounds like at Roosevelt Gardens, that's an over 80% increase in the number of units you have there with this, which is great. Next, we'll take Guadalupe Neighborhood Development Corporation. Is that you, Rachel? Hi.
Yeah. Hi. Thanks for having me. I'm Rachel Stone, Assistant Director with Guadalupe Neighborhood Development Corporation. I just wanted to share briefly about our project at 809 East 9th Street. It's the Lopez Tower, as we've been calling it. It'll be called La Vista de Lopez. GNDC owns the land at that site. It's currently a historic house that we had been interested in preserving. And we initially were going to build, as much as we could on that site, a 6-story, 24-unit, 70-foot building. We wanted it to be senior housing. It's close to a bus stop. There's not a lot of senior housing right in that neighborhood, and we do want to dedicate some space. We haven't built senior housing before, and this would be our third multifamily property. And we were having some difficulties with parking. We knew a lot of our seniors were not going to have cars, but under the zoning or under the NHCD, I can't remember what the acronym is, but yeah, congregate living was not a use, and so we were going to have to seek a variance for parking. We had some other site complications, and also the project at 6 stories was very costly per square foot because of the needing to build a tower that was only going to have 4 units per floor. And with Affordability Unlocked, we were able to go up to 9 stories. That made it so that we could have 34 units, so we were able to increase by 10 units. That also allowed us to add 6 units that would be deeply affordable, which helped us then apply for HUD 202 funding because HUD 202 funding is only for units that are at 50% and below. And we were able to increase the number of units so much that would be 50% and below by adding those 10 units that we applied for 26 deeply affordable units for PRAC HUD 202 funding, which we were awarded. So that's $4 million that will go towards the construction of this project that we will basically filled a large gap because of how complicated a project it is. And Affordability Unlocked helped us take care of our parking issue, so we're able to provide the number of spots we think will actually be used in the building. We've seen some senior housing projects around town that have a lot of empty spaces all the time because seniors simply are not bringing cars into that kind of housing. So we're really excited. Our numbers look good now. It was a very tough project before, and we're able to serve significantly more seniors at the site. So that's been really helpful.
Great, thank you, Ms. Dunn.
Yeah.
And we'll get back to you in case folks have follow-ups. Do we have someone here from Foundation Communities?
This is Mandy DeMayo. I don't think Walter was available until about 10:30, so he will join if he can.
Okay, that sounds good. And I think Fayez was going to hop on at 10:30 potentially, and so we'll pull him up when he gets here. Are there questions from the dais for our staff, for GNDC, or for project transitions? Vice Chair Ellis and then Councilmember Alter.
Appreciate this presentation. It's really good to see all the affordable units that we're able to bring online because of this. In the chart that showed that there were 2 districts that were not able to utilize this program yet, are there any other things that make it prohibitive other than cost? Is it a matter of kind of where things are allowed to be built, or is it really a matter of funding and demand for these types of units?
Do you want to take that one? If not, I can certainly jump in.
Oh, sorry, was that? Sorry, I just found my mute button. I honestly, I do think it's certainly a bit of funding. A lot of availability of land, of course, as well. There are a number of different factors. I would also say I really do think, since it's such a new program, I feel like it's safe to say I think these numbers are going to be changing a little bit, probably in this next year as people catch on more. It's been great. GNDC has used this quite a bit, but I hope from other organizations and even, developers, market rate developers, that also start to learn about this. So I think these numbers could change, and it's hard to say right now where that's really going to go.
And Councilmember Mandy DeMayo, the only thing I would add is that I think the availability of the base zoning that triggers the possibility of affordability unlocked is also something that may hinder our usage of affordability unlocked in certain council districts. And you'll note that District 6 and 8 were the only 2 districts where there wasn't any affordability unlocked yet. But as Alex said, it is a new program. We anticipate as the word gets out, we will potentially see more developments. And of course, the market is going to drive a lot of the decisions about where we choose to take advantage, or where developers choose to take advantage of this new tool.
That's helpful. I look forward to seeing where people are able to expand this in the future. I think there were a couple that may have only had one project as well. And so I know there are all parts of town that can benefit from using this program.
Thank you. Councilmember Alter and then Councilmember Kitchen.
Good morning. Good morning. Again, I can't talk too well, but I'm going to try. I really appreciate this presentation, and it's exciting to see the progress that's made on affordability through this program. I did want to ask, a question. So as I'm understanding Affordability Unlocked, it's kind of a density bonus that happens based on your base zoning. And I think in the circumstances that we're seeing all here, it's my impression at least that all of these are cases where they started with their base zoning, they didn't change their base zoning, and then added Affordability Unlocked. We now have a different situation, which I don't know if we fully anticipated before us for a zoning case, where we are being asked to change the zoning, and they're saying that they want to use Affordability Unlocked. But it's my understanding, just as in other situations, that they could get their new zoning but not use it, and we'd have no way under the current program to guarantee that. And it's just something that I'm struggling with because I think it's problematic if we're giving zoning based on an expectation of additional affordable housing, but then there's no mechanism to ensure that that happens. And I'm curious of staff have any thoughts on that, or my colleagues on that, because it doesn't seem to help ease the process if you have to have all these private covenants and you have to bring in all these other folks in order to be able to use it with the new zoning as the workaround. And so I'm just wondering what options we have or we might consider for that in the future. Obviously, that's not going to address things in the particular case that's before us, but if this is in fact working well and it is getting us the affordability to accompany the density, that would be something I would be interested in seeing if we could address.
So this is Mandy DeMayo again. Alex, not to put you on the spot, but out of all of the Affordability Unlocked cases we have seen come thus far, do you know if any have had a zoning change associated with them?
So far, I've had, I believe, one or two developers reach out and ask about Affordability Unlocked, explaining that they are planning on going through a zoning change, and then we'll plan on applying, and they want to make sure that they understand the program in advance of going through that change. I've yet to actually receive an application, though, for either of those projects, and none of the applications I've received so far have those conditions.
And so to Councilmember Alter's question, we don't have a mechanism in place, nor can I think of one easily, where the Affordability Unlocked certification would bind that developer to the affordability. I think that's the heart of your question, Councilmember.
Yeah, that's what if we're giving them, if we wouldn't have given them the upzoning absent Affordability Unlocked, and they don't have to do Affordability Unlocked, we're potentially stuck. And that may not be the case of the particular example. It just raises a regulatory concern that I would have in the future, because we want to make sure that people are actually building the affordable units.
And Councilmember, I'd like to speak briefly to this, but Councilmember Kitchen, is your question on the same point, or could we hold tight on this for a minute?
It's the same point, but we're related to that, and it's also implied in what Councilmember Alster is asking is, what would it take to obtain that assurance? In other words, how can we connect a zoning change to a requirement to pursue affordability Unlocked?
And let me step in here then on this front, just because I've asked some similar questions. In my mind, and then staff, you can let me know if you think differently. In part, this is what Affordability Unlocked already does on many of these projects, where the reason we're seeing very few zoning changes related to them, I think there might have been a zoning change for the lamppost project, and I know that Fayez is here, and he can speak to that. But generally, there's not as many zoning changes, which is partly the point, which is so that if somebody is already going to participate in that level of affordability, they don't have to go through the rezoning process. and frankly creates affordability that they couldn't even get, or creates development regulations they couldn't even get through the rezoning process, as GNDC mentioned. So I think the main solution might be to look at which folks are still looking for zoning changes and which changes and enhancements we could make to affordability unlocked, so that they didn't come and ask for a zoning change, but they just immediately went into affordability unlocked, which immediately triggers those affordability requirements. So I think the zoning changes could be really informative as to what things we need to add into affordability unlocked to lock in that permanence. The other issue, though, is, as you've described it, Councilmember Alter, is because we are banned from inclusionary zoning. This is a challenge we face not just on affordability unlocked projects, but all density bonus projects. When somebody comes and promises, if you give me VMU, I'm going to use the bonus. If you give me MF5, I'm going to do the X on affordability. And virtually every other state in the country, we could make that a requirement. But with our ban on inclusionary zoning, that's why they have to go do the private contracts. So in my view, the two ways to solve it are, to have a more upfront and cleaner process in the private world on restrictive covenants, fix the inclusionary zoning state law if we ever could. And then finally, though, I think the one that's most in our control is making it so they don't have to come for the zoning change by making sure that whatever they're not getting out of affordability unlocked that they need to be asking for a zoning change for, we can enhance affordability unlocked to do that so that you don't get put in that situation. But those are thoughts after having heard your question last week.
So
go ahead, Councilmember Alter.
So I appreciate that, and I need to still think it through. But it is that it may be that we need to have some sort of template restrictive covenants or something that are ready for affordability unlocked, developed over time, so that whoever's doing the affordable housing or who's the contact team has some kind of template in place or something that means that they don't have to pay for the lawyers every time. I don't know exactly what the solutions are, but I do think that it is, particularly with certain builders, that it is not out of the question that they would come in for that zoning and then not do it. Now, it will depend on who they brought in for their partner, and I just, the benefit of this program is that you get significant affordability with the additional density, even if this is happening in the neighborhoods. And so I think we need to keep brainstorming on that. And it looks like a couple of the folks who are online, as well as Councilmember Kitchen, might have had some additional thoughts.
Kitchen, go ahead.
well, it's just at some point I'd like to drill down and understand what kind of zoning changes are being requested if the suggestion is perhaps you build into the affordability unlocked program something that means you don't have to get zoning changes, but I'm not sure. A better route might be the COs that Allison is talking about. But I would want to understand better exactly what kind of zoning changes are needed. In other words, what is the barrier to using an affordability unlocked? My other question really is kind of related, but I'm just wondering to what degree, well, actually, you already answered it. I mean, that has to do with market forces and to what degree this program works from a financial standpoint in some parts of town and maybe not other parts of town.
So, Councilmember, this is Mandy DeMayo, and I did want to, I don't know if it's really closing the loop on the questions that both you and Councilmember Alter are raising about zoning. I do want to say that staff will go back and look at the range of applications that we've seen thus far and do a deep dive into whether or not there have been zoning requests, which we believe there have been zoning requests that are predicated on affordability, and we'll also talk to our legal staff, which I think will be an important component on this, as Councilmember Passar mentioned. We do have a lot of constraints with respect to the state legislature, whether it's on inclusionary zoning or spot zoning, that really can tie our hands in terms of zoning requests predicated on a promise of one thing or another. But this is certainly something we will look at, particularly in light of the fact that you do have at least one zoning case coming before you that I believe you already heard on first reading.
So now I'd like to call up Fayez to talk to us about a project that has broken ground. And then if you could speak to any of the zoning stuff, that would be very helpful. And then I know Rachel at GNDC can speak to this as well after Fayez is done. If we could unmute Mr. Kazi, that would be great. Let me see if I think I can too. All right, you're live, Fayez.
Thank you, Greg. I just want to quickly go over a few things before I get into the rezoning. I'll just share a little bit about the development itself. Good morning, everyone. Excuse me. So I want to talk about at Lamppost. It's located at 12500 Lamppost Lane. It's in District 7, and it contains 17 multi-bedroom, family-friendly townhouse-style homes for ownership by families that are making 80% or less of the Austin MFI. And that works out to be about $78,000 for a family of 4. The average value in this neighborhood of homes is well over $360,000 and escalating. But these brand new homes will be available for just over $200,000. It's the first development that's utilizing Affordably Unlocked. It's the first one to break ground, and we were fortunate enough to have a virtual groundbreaking that Mandy and council members Kassar and Poole and the mayor were able to attend, so that was great. This development qualified for the Tier 1 ordinance provisions, which waive or relax the requirements for parking and setbacks and density levels, as long as at least 50% of the units are income restricted. We were also able to use funds from the 2018 Affordable Housing Bond through the Austin Housing Finance Corporation, about $1.4 million, and we're able to use that to leverage other financing as well. How Affordably Unlocked helped was that this particular site, which is 1.25 acres, was evaluated and was able to put in 7 units. And that was because there was the SF6 setbacks and parking requirements. And with the setbacks removed, we were able to put 10. With the parking requirements removed, we were able to put 17. So that's a whole lot more than the 7 we would have otherwise been able to put on that lot. I heard some questions about the rezoning. This was one site that was rezoned from SF3. And SF6 was critical because it was kind of an odd-shaped lot, and it allowed the units to be clustered efficiently and around trees and other constraints. There was a creek through the site, a channel through the site that we had to work around. And if we were to leave it at SF3, Affordably Unlocked allows us 6 or 8 units at the most. And like I mentioned earlier, we were able to get 17 in here, combining all of these relaxed regulations in the Affordably Unlocked and the funding from AHFC. And the SF6 also allowed the additional impervious cover that we needed on this lot. The rezoning took about 4 months, and I want to direct your attention to the original council resolution, which specifically called out, and I quote, "Whereas the rezoning process may be costly, time-consuming, and may ultimately limit the number of affordable units, the level of affordability, and the number of family-friendly units in an affordable housing development, and allowing affordable housing to be built by right without rezoning may benefit the city's affordable housing stock." And then I want to quickly touch on site plan review as well, because there are some things that Councilmember Casar alluded to where there's still some tweaks that can be made to improve and have some of these projects go through faster through the process. This particular project took 10 months to do this full site plan review. And again, I want to direct your attention to the original resolution, which specifically called for, and I quote, a modified site plan process that more closely resembles residential site plan while still addressing health and safety and addressing drainage in the same way that drainage is addressed for non-multifamily structures with the same impervious cover, including any adjustments to fee schedule as necessary for developments with 16 or fewer units. There's still, there's promise in the draft code rewrite, but it still needs more work. The 10 months and the 4 months, together have cost us quite a bit in increasing material costs. I would say that every month that is spent in the rezoning or site planning process is significantly increasing the pricing. And I can tell you this firsthand just from this particular project. So we do have a few recommendations in mind that we would like to work with staff on. And I don't know if Connor is on the line, but he was going to help me kind of work through the list of recommendations that we had come up with if Councilmember Casar, if you'd like to hear that.
We might wind up having some time. I did want to hear from GNDC, and I think that Walter Moreau has now joined us. And so certainly email us that list, and then we'll see how many more questions it is that we have to cover. But that is really helpful to know that we still have pieces of this to go, but also great to hear that on this project, it sounds like you were going to do 7. Now you're able to do 17. By my math, that's nearly a 150% increase in the number of affordable homes you're able to do there. So that's really important. I was actually driving through Gracie Woods the other day and saw a 1970s house on the market for, I think, $500,000. So putting brand new houses on the market there at $200,000 when the old ones are going up into the $500,000 range is really powerful. So thank you for what y'all are doing there. Rachel, I don't know if you want to speak to the zoning issue that you guys have had, if any.
Yeah, I think, just an example, we were approached by a family who wanted to sell us their land in one of the neighborhoods we work in. The zoning is currently only 2 units could go on it. They wanted $1 million. That is obviously not affordable. With affordability unlocked, we could put up to 8 units on it, which sounded like a lot to us in the beginning. But the lot, even though it's zoned single family, it's over 10,000 square feet. So it's a very, very large lot. And when we looked at it, it was actually, it would be much more comfortable and would feel more like a community to put 14 units on it. So that's a case where we would need a zoning change and then affordability unlocked, but it's not, this giant density project. It's a lot of area and a lot, other. So those are the kinds of cases where it's the size of the lot and the, the properties of the lot that make it's the zoning just doesn't really suit the lot. So I just wanted to offer an example of a time where we would be looking at affordability unlocked, because obviously 72,000 per unit for home ownership is a lot better than 125,000 just for the cost of the land. So just a small example of something we're looking at, even just for single family, it would still be single family houses on the lot. It just, allows us that kind of flexibility. So a zoning change would still be needed.
Really useful. Thank you, Rachel. Do we have Walter on the line?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
We can hear you. Why don't you give us 2 quick minutes of using this, joining us.
The biggest thing for us has been at Zilker Studios, which we're going to break ground in the spring. It'll be 110 supportive housing units on a ½ acre on South Lamar, and we couldn't do it without the benefits of affordability unlocked. Essentially height and parking. Instead of being capped at 60 feet, we can go up to, I think it's to 84, 85 feet, and that gets us that extra story. We might have been okay with a couple dozen parking spaces, but that didn't become something special that required extra approvals. Remarkably, a couple of the other projects we have on our development pipeline didn't need the benefit of affordability unlocked, but then we keep looking at new sites and compatibility and all the other issues, and the ordinance has really helped. So I don't know, I don't have much more to add other than to say thank you, and it's working.
On Zilker, how many fewer units would you have had if without it? How much less than 110? Do you know?
It's 6 stories, so it'd be essentially we'd lose a story and at least a dozen units and maybe 18 units total.
Got it. Great. Thank you, Walter. And that's Walter Moreau from Foundation Communities. Okay. Thank you for joining us, and please stick around in case folks have questions. I'm going to try to get us done with this item by 11, so we still have a few minutes. Any other questions for our guests or for the staff? Okay, well then, in this moment, then it might be useful to hear from Mr. Kenny or Mr. Kazi about recommendations y'all might have to make what seems to be working well even better. Are either of you there still? And I might have to unmute you. Oh, I see Connor, and let me see if I can get him off mute.
Yes, I'm here.
Great, we can hear you.
Great. Yeah, affordability unlocked is great. It's just large sites with higher density zoning or commercial zoning are really just a different beast than SF3 zoning. And particularly if we're looking at the anti-displacement funding in the Project Connect tax rate election, I think a lot of these kind of interior neighborhood sites where we might be seeing some displacement, and then even the sites where we're seeing out in Montopolis that are really have been a lot of heartache for a lot of us in trying to sort through those issues, could really be served by looking specifically at the kind of SF3, SF2 adjustments that are made, that we have these very large sites or kind of odd-shaped sites with not very much street frontage. If we were able to get some sort of flexibility or scalable unit bonus, like you have, like the way the SF6 is configured, which is a units per acre, rather than SF3, which is just 2 units per lot, that would help tremendously. And the other interesting thing about it is that we don't actually need the height and affordability unlocked for these smaller sites. So I think there's potentially some trade-offs and compromises here where we could just look for some flexibility, get those 50% affordable units, which we're trying to get on some of these Montopolis lots and some of these other lots that are near Project Connect, without talking about putting up big old buildings. And then as well, the site review process, it's kind of the undone action item on affordability unlocked, and we are really excited and interesting about working with staff and offering some of our lots as kind of test cases to help work through these issues and help design a good policy.
Great, thank you. Are there any other questions folks have come up with here? Or should we get moving on? Okay, well, by my quick math, on the Guadalupe neighborhood development project that y'all mentioned, it's about a 42% increase in the number of affordable units and deeper affordability. Is really important for project transitions, which is providing housing for people living with HIV/AIDS. It's an 80% increase on Roosevelt Gardens, plus another one on Burnett Road. So I know we're more than doubling the amount of housing that you'll have across those 2 sites using this. It looks like Civilitude had the biggest bump. Fayez described a 50% increase in the number of units you could do there. And then Walter at Zilker Studios really needed really low cost housing there. Actually, Walter, can you remind me what the rent is nowadays on a 30% MFI unit? Since generally the rental requirements for affordability unlocked are 30% to 50% MFI, or our staff, either our staff or whoever on the line wants to remind me what the latest number is on per month cost. Mandy, it looks like you were in on it.
Yeah. So the 30% rents that are set by TDHCA include both rent and utilities. And for an efficiency, it'll be less than 500 for just rent.
Less than 500 for rent and utilities.
For rent alone, the utilities will vary. 500
for rent alone, right? And so obviously creating dozens more at $500 in a brand new apartment building also great. Well, thank y'all for this. I said it was a 10-month check-in, but actually it looks like applications did start coming in August, so we are right at a 1-year check-in, and over 2,000 affordable homes coming in through the program this year.